So what do you think is the most hostile environment on our planet? A scorching desert? A frozen wasteland? Well, what if I told you it was the crushing, silent, absolute blackness of the deep ocean? In this explainer, we're going to walk through the real-world protocol for surviving what is, without a doubt, one of the most terrifying situations a human being can face.
First, let's get our bearings. We're not just talking about being deep. You are 10,000 meters below the surface. That is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. You're in a place called the Hadal Zone, an environment so extreme, so alien, that fewer people have been here that have walked on the moon.
And down here, the pressure, well, it's almost impossible to really wrap your head around. It is 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure you're feeling right this second. It's a force so immense, it's difficult to even visualize.
So, welcome to the abyss. To put that 1,000x figure into perspective, we're talking about 8 tons of force pressing down on every single square inch of your submersible. It's like having 50 jumbo jets stacked right on top of you. That's the power that is constantly trying to crush you flat. And then it happens. The low hum of the engines just dies. The lights flicker and then go out. All power is gone. You're now just a tiny, fragile little capsule suspended in an alien world, and a clock has started ticking. The question isn't if something will kill you. It's what's going to get to you first. The most immediate, the most violent, and frankly, the quickest threat is a catastrophic failure of the one thing that's protecting you, your submersible's hull. This is the instant implosion threat.
See, at these pressures, there's absolutely no margin for error. We're not talking about some big gash in the side. A single microscopic crack in the titanium, a tiny invisible weakness in the thick acrylic of the viewport, that is all it takes for the ocean to win. The result is an instantaneous, total collapse.
And the really terrifying part is the sheer speed of it all. An implosion at this depth happens in milliseconds. It is, and I mean this quite literally, over before your nervous system could even begin to send a pain signal to your brain.
The physics at play here are just incredible. The official protocol actually notes one final warning sign, a high-pitched creaking sound. Now that's not just the metal groaning under the strain, it's the sound of the air inside the sub being compressed so violently and so fast that it heats up and flash ignites. The air itself becomes an incendiary, just a split second before the whole structure vaporizes.
But let's say the hull holds. You've somehow survived that immediate violent threat from the outside. Great. Now the danger comes from within. You are officially in a race against the very air you're breathing.
Now here's the crucial thing. Most people, from movies and stuff, they think you just run out of oxygen. But that's a relatively slow process. The far more immediate, far more dangerous enemy is the carbon dioxide that you're exhaling with every single breath. It's a poison, and it's building up silently in this tiny enclosed space.
When the CO2 concentration in the air climbs to just 5%, this terrifying physiological response kicks in. It's called air hunger. It's this overwhelming, primal feeling of suffocation, even though there's still plenty of oxygen left to breathe. This leads directly to panic, clouded judgment, and pretty quickly unconsciousness. So how do you fight it?
The protocol is crystal clear, and you have to follow it without panicking. First, all movement and talking stops immediately. Less activity means a lower metabolic rate, which means less CO2 is produced. Second, you activate the CO2 scrubbers. These are basically just canisters of chemicals that literally pull the CO2 out of the air. And third, only when absolutely necessary, you deploy what are called oxygen candles, which use a chemical reaction to release fresh, breathable oxygen, topping up your supply.
Okay, you've stabilized the air. The hull is holding. But a new, creeping enemy is starting to make its presence felt. The relentless, life-sapping cold of the abyss.
Without power, your internal heaters are dead. The water outside is just a few degrees above freezing. And your metal sub, the thing that was your shield, well, now it's a perfect conductor, and it's leaching heat from your body into the endless cold of the ocean. The best analogy is that you are now trapped inside a giant refrigerator.
The speed of heat loss here is just staggering. Your body loses heat to water 25 times faster than it does to air. So every single second you're sitting in that sub, the cold is winning. Hypothermia isn't just a risk anymore, it's a certainty, unless you act fast.
So the protocol shifts again. Now it's all about heat conservation. Everyone huddles together, right in the center of the cabin, as far away from those heat-sucking hull walls as possible.
You break out the emergency thermal foil blankets to reflect your own body heat back at you. And here's a crucial but kind of counterintuitive point: do not drink any alcohol. That warm feeling it gives you, it's a lie. It actually thins your blood and makes you lose heat even faster.
You're managing the air. You're fighting the cold. But you have one more enormous problem. You are completely, utterly alone in total, absolute darkness.
You're alive, which is amazing, but nobody knows where you are. Nobody even knows you're in trouble. How on earth do you signal for help from 10,000 meters deep?
Well, your radio is useless. Might as well be a brick. Radio waves, the backbone of all our communication, are almost completely absorbed by salt water. You are totally cut off. But there is one thing that travels brilliantly in water: sound. In fact, sound travels about 4.5 times faster in water than it does in air. It is your only hope.
So the protocol has two layers. The main plan is to activate an emergency acoustic pinger, which sends out these ultrasonic pulses that rescue ships can detect. But what if the emergency power for that fails too? Well, the backup plan is terrifyingly primitive. You take a heavy object and you start banging on the hull in a rhythmic pattern, like SOS. You have to turn your prison into a drum and just pray that the sound will travel for miles through the dark to a listening ear.
So, you're pinging, or you're banging on the hull. You're breathing, you're staying warm. But now comes the final battle. And this one isn't fought against pressure or cold or CO2. This one is fought inside your own mind. You have to fight the psychological abyss. In the total blackness, with the immense, crushing weight of an entire ocean sitting on top of you, the human mind can break. So the protocol is designed to stop that from happening. You impose structure on the chaos. You maintain a strict schedule. You enforce watch rotations even if there's nothing to see. The goal is to give everyone a purpose, a job, anything to prevent the group from spiraling into panic and psychosis. And above all else, to maintain hope.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. The engineering, the physics, the procedures, they all exist. The protocols are written down. But when you are trapped in that cold, crushing dark, 10 kilometers from the sun, with the minutes turning into hours, could you actually follow them?